We all are ready. Thank you.
Great. So good morning, USA, and good evening, India. Welcome, everyone, to the India-South Carolina Investors Roundtable, organized by CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, and the South Carolina Department of Commerce. Thank you, everyone, for joining us bright and early Monday morning or Monday evening. My name is Shuchita Sanalika, and I head CII's North America operations. We hope you are staying safe, everybody is doing well, and my greetings to everybody for Diwali, for everybody that celebrated. I hope you enjoyed a happy Diwali. To begin the program, since CII opened its North America headquarters in Washington in 1995, we have supported the interests of Indian industry in strengthening the India-US partnership for decades now, and we are glad to be doing so again today. And this program is really a testament to the regional and state level linkages and connects that we are building. And thank you to the Consul General of India in Atlanta for their partnership, and indeed my thanks to the South Carolina Department of Commerce. South Carolina is a special state. It's warm, welcoming, hospitable, business friendly, and home to over 1,200 international companies. The Honorable Governor Henry McMaster was not able to join us today, but he has sent a lovely video greeting, inviting greater business collaboration between India and South Carolina. We are honored to have with us Dr. Swati Vijay Kulkarni, Consul General of India in Atlanta, and Ms. Jennifer Fletcher, the Deputy Secretary of the South Carolina Department of Commerce. Thank you very much for joining us. South Carolina's business linkages with India, and in particular with Tamil Nadu, are quite strong, especially in the automotive and advanced manufacturing sectors. And so we are also pleased to have Dr. Neeraj Mittal, CEO and MD of the Guidance Bureau of the Government of Tamil Nadu, and Mr. Vivek Joshi, President and CEO of Sundaram Clayton Limited at this roundtable. Following their planned remarks, we will have Mr. Tarun Gupta, who is the MD for South Carolina Department of Commerce in India, moderate an interaction between Philip Morgan, who is the Senior Project Manager of SC Department of Commerce, Ms. Karen Davidson, who is Head of Global Business Development Manager of the Charleston Regional Development Alliance, and Mr. Ford Graham, Counsel at K&L Gates. And during this time, our audience, our participants will have the opportunity to ask questions about investing in South Carolina. Indian companies are investing quite a bit, quite heavily in the United States, and as well as generating and safeguarding thousands of direct and indirect jobs in the U.S. CII's recently released report, Indian Roots American Soil, found that 155 Indian companies are responsible for generating over $22 billion in FDI in the U.S. and nearly 125,000 jobs across the U.S. with some commendable success stories. And as our countries begin to navigate a new normal in this new situation, we've seen an immense potential to reinvigorate the bilateral state-to-state economic agenda. Our report also shows that South Carolina received over $75 million in Indian FDI, with businesses indicating further investments planned in the state. We will hear from one such amazing highlight in South Carolina today, which is Sundaram Clayton, and why they think South Carolina is such a great place for business. And despite the pandemic-induced downturn that we are seeing, the U.S. has actually remained a priority market for Indian industry. And this is evidenced by continuing interest from both countries to explore FDI opportunities during this time. And so we will look forward to Dr. Mittal's remarks later on the synergies between South Carolina and Tamil Nadu markets. There is no doubt that industry on both sides has a huge stake in deepening our economic partnership, contributing to the growth and development of our economies and our people. And I want to thank the South Carolina Department of Commerce for this excellent collaboration today. And with that, let me introduce our first speaker, Dr. Swati Vijay Kulkarni, Consul General of India in Atlanta. Dr. Kulkarni is a career diplomat who holds an MBBS degree, so an amazing medical background from a prestigious government medical college in Nagpur. She joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1995. and she has served as Consul General at the CGI in Cape Town, South Africa, and Deputy Head of Mission in Muscat in Oman in her previous assignments. Dr. Kulkarni, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let me invite you to share your perspectives with us.
Thank you, Sonalika. Warm greetings to all of you on this virtual roundtable, what we call the investors meet. We are delighted to be here. See, the consulate has a jurisdiction over 6 states and 2 territories. So South Carolina is part of it. We are in Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, and South Carolina is one of the important states for us. Okay. So the jurisdiction here in Southeast, what we call, is fairly big. And the overall bilateral trade between India and Southeast is more than $12 billion plus. So the 3 states which are very active as far as our jurisdiction is concerned are Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. And South Carolina is catching up very, very fast. So Georgia, we are enjoying a bilateral trade to the tune of $3.2 billion. And with Florida, we have a bilateral trade of about $2.8 billion. And Tennessee is about $2.4 billion. About South Carolina, I'll come in a bit. I will just give a little overview here in our jurisdiction. So we have about 90 Indian companies in our jurisdiction, and they have invested about $10 billion US dollars, creating about 5,000 local jobs. So many important names, Indian names, are here in Southeast. They are basically Novelis, Tech Mahindra. Then we have Infosys, TCS, Jindal Films, Jindal Pipes, Polyplast, Win Laboratories, and of course Sundaram Clayton, which is a recent entry which we have seen. Then there are about 400,000 Indian Americans we have, and that's a big Indian diaspora, which is a very strong and vital bond between India and South Carolina. So more Indians are in Florida, 150,000, and in Georgia, 120,000, and South Carolina also has a big population, and they are in diverse sectors. So this is an important element of our people-to-people contracts, where we have succeeded in creating huge knowledge network. So you can see here on this map various sectors which are there. In South Carolina, you can see that most important sectors are auto, aerospace, and again, there are also agriculture, engineering services, textile, healthcare also. And other states also, you can see how. So important sectors which are in our jurisdictions are auto, healthcare, and aerospace. Agriculture is also there. And many Indian professionals are in IT services, fintech collaboration and things like that. As far as South Carolina Department of Commerce is concerned, they have taken a lead in our jurisdiction, and they have established Trade Office, India Trade Office, in 2014. And since then, we have seen an upward trend as far as the interest shown by Indian companies in South Carolina. Otherwise, what used to happen, that people will usually go to those various cities like New York, San Francisco, Houston, and then people were not aware of markets in Southeast. So South Carolina has taken a lead, and they have shown to them that how South Carolina has such a flourishing, encouraging environment. So since then, we have seen a lot of Indian companies who are taking interest in Southeast, including South Carolina. And since 2014, we have seen 6 to 8 companies which have invested in South Carolina, and few are more in pipeline. So the team South Carolina, that is the Department of Commerce, is a very important focal point, because they are also encouraging how to do business in their state. Then another thing which we have seen in establishment of South Carolina Trade Office is augmentation of bilateral trade between the two, India and South Carolina. You can see all those companies there listed, which are doing the major companies which are doing businesses. But we have now the bilateral trade, which was in 2016 was 1.1 billion. Now we are enjoying 1.8 billion dollars US trade. Trade between the two. So we have seen Indian companies in diverse sectors. You can see from the table there, and you will be surprised to see that there is one company called Himmat Singh Ka Seed, which is in home furnishing also, which is a non-traditional sector. It's in Spartanburg. So when I was interacting with Upstate Alliance of South Carolina also, I was delighted to see 3 Indian companies in that part of South Carolina. And another recent entry is what we have seen is Sundaram Clayton. And I know that Mr. Joshi is going to elaborate on their operations. We were very happy and encouraged by their successful operation in Ridgeville facility when we visited it along, the then Ambassador our Harshvardhan Shingla in October 2019. So it was very heartening to see how they are doing it, how they have created local jobs, and that's the success story of their company. As far as our consulate is concerned, we are working shoulder to shoulder with South Carolina's Department of Commerce, and we are happy to work with them to encourage and augment the bilateral trade between us. We are happy to have enriching relationship of theirs with various chambers of commerce. Now CII has taken an initiative. We want to encourage that further with FICCI and other state departments of India, and also with manufacturing associations. Then we also are happy to see that South Carolina has taken another initiative to visit India every year. Due to COVID this year, we haven't seen that visit fructifying, but we are confident that this year or maybe post-COVID, we will see that again, regaining that momentum on that side. Then we have also seen one important initiative taken by a CPA firm in Atlanta, which has also helped in doing this report on Indian roots and American soil 2020. That firm is doing events like doing business in USA in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in India. Perhaps South Carolina Department of Commerce may wish to join hands with them so that we can also encourage this augmentation of bilateral ties between the two, India and South Carolina. Again, we are routinely dealing with various trade inquiries. Whenever we get trade inquiries, we make it a point to encourage our Indian companies to invest in South Carolina and vice versa. And we are also encouraging them to see various projects like greenfield projects to merger and acquisition, so that collaboration exists between the two and the Indian companies doing here and US companies going back to India. So we are happy that Tamil Nadu state has taken an initiative to go in a very energetic way and to enhance this elaborative framework. So let us work towards nurturing this fruitful and constructive engagement. Thank you so much.
Consul General, thank you so much for your candid remarks. This is really helpful, and to see how much you've contributed and your work in supporting Indian business community as well as the diaspora during this critical time. We can really see how much you've invested your time and effort into this. So thank you so much for your work and for joining us today. And companies looking to expand in your jurisdiction will certainly find the consulate a great partner and a great help in launching whatever new ventures that they plan to do. Thanks again. And now let's move on to a special presentation that the Honorable Governor Henry McMaster sent for us, a special video greeting. Since he was elected to his first full term as governor in November 2018, he has announced more than 41,000 new jobs and $12 billion nearly in capital investment. We are so proud of the work that he's been doing. So let me ask my colleague here, Saurabh Khanna, to please cue up the video recording, please. Well, thank you, Governor, for that invitation. We will certainly see you soon. And indeed, as the Consul General said, once travel resumes, we also look forward to hosting the Governor and the South Carolina team in India as well. To further progress with the program, we are so fortunate to be joined today by South Carolina's Deputy Secretary of Commerce, Ms. Jennifer Fletcher. She will build upon the Governor's remarks with her keynote address highlighting the opportunities for doing business in South Carolina. She brings nearly 20 years of economic development experience to the South Carolina Department of Commerce, having most recently served as the Director for Global Business Development. So she knows what businesses need in order to be successful in the U.S. and especially in their state. Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good evening and greetings from South Carolina. And on behalf of the state and echoing the governor's sentiments, really want to thank you for taking the time out of probably what was a long, busy day for you. I certainly hope that you will enjoy hearing from the panel that we've assembled this afternoon. We've tried to hand select both public and government folks to speak with you about information about doing business in South Carolina. So as you contemplate your company's growth, we hope this information will be helpful to you. South Carolina is known the world over as a top destination for international business. And as stated earlier, 1,200 operations of foreign-owned firms employ more than 145,000 South Carolinians. To put that in perspective, that's nearly 8% of the state's private industry employment. And South Carolina has a long success of helping international companies. And why I think that's important for you all as you consider going overseas is because with our experience, that means that we understand international companies, and we have a workforce that is used to dealing with new cultures and new ways of doing businesses. We have experienced service providers like you'll hear from today to help you set up your business and make sure it moves forward quickly. South Carolina also has a tremendous service after the sale approach. So not only are we going to work very closely with you as you work through making a decision of where to locate a new facility, we're going to stay with you once you locate here as well. And we do that with a very robust existing industry program. And so we work with companies established here for any type of assistance they might need that arise due to business challenges. Obviously, we're going through some of those business challenges now, and we've helped our companies work through things like supply chain issues and logistics concerns, but we also work with workforce, other production challenges, et cetera. Because really what our goal is that every facility in South Carolina should operate at its maximum and exceed its goals. I think most importantly today, you're going to hear firsthand how a leading Indian company has found success in the Palmetto State. We're obviously excited to have Vivek Joshi, President and CEO of Sundaram Clayton, joining this call today, and you'll hear from him shortly. I, like the governor, also had the pleasure of visiting their state-of-the-art facility in South Carolina, and we couldn't be more proud to have them part of our family here. So as you consider South Carolina and the great opportunities set forth for you today, please know that Tarun Gupta and his team locally in India are there to answer any questions and talk through any concerns you might have. And finally, I'd like to thank our partners in this effort, the Confederation of Indian Industry and Consul General Kulkarni, as well as the government of Tamil Nadu. Again, we appreciate your time today. I certainly hope you learn a lot and enjoy. And thank you for considering South Carolina to expand your business in the United States. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your observations and for sharing your views with our members. You know, one parallel shared by both India and the U.S. is the vast diversity of ecosystems that exist across the country in each state. And looking at South Carolina's key industries of, advanced manufacturing, automotive, agribusiness. It's really, it's natural for us to be able to see the synergies between South Carolina and India's state of Tamil Nadu. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Neeraj Mittal, the CEO and MD of the Guidance Bureau of the Government of Tamil Nadu, and this is the nodal agency for investment promotion and facilitation in the state. Dr. Mittal, I invite you to share your insights.
Hi there, my name is Gaurav. Apologies, Dr. Mittal is having an emergency call. If you can just give me 1 or 2 minutes, I will just get him back on the call. Apologies for that. He just got from the call from the CM's office, so just give us 2 minutes and he shall be back on. And I mean, this is something we couldn't predict upon. Sorry.
No problem. We know these things happen. If you agree, shall we perhaps ask Vijay Joshi from Sundaram Clayton to come in here?
That will be fine.
After remarks, Dr. Mittal can come.
That will be great. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Mittal has just joined, so maybe he will just take it from us.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
No problem, Dr. Mittal. I just introduced you and the Tamil Nadu Guidance Bureau. I said that this is the nodal agency for investment promotion for facilitation of business in the state, and we couldn't have had a better champion than you to hear about this from. So over to you, Dr.
Thank you, Sushita. The Honorable Governor, Dr. Swati, the Consul General at Atlanta, Jennifer Noel Fletcher, Speaker prior to me, the Deputy Secretary, Shuchita, Vivek, Tarun, Philip Morgan, Karen Davidson, Ford Graham, and other colleagues and other investors who have joined us today. I'm really, proud and privileged to be here today, representing what Tamil Nadu has to offer. As Swati said that the entire Sundaram Clayton facility is a pleasure for all of us to see in terms of reverse investment in the United States, creating jobs there, and it is a proud, pearl of Indian entrepreneurship in the United States. We also have a lot of, relationship with U.S. companies in Tamil Nadu. I don't know if many of you may not be aware of what is, happening in Tamil Nadu. It is one of the second largest economy in the country. It has the highest urbanization rate at about 50% in the country again. We grow at about 8%, which is twice the national growth rate. And we have been consistently ranked 1 or 2 in good governance and in, attracting investments during this year. In fact, during the COVID times, Tamil Nadu attracted the largest investment in the entire country, both in the quarter and in the first half year. The state is also very well connected with, seaports, international airports, and the most important advantage which most investors tell us is a great supply of trained manpower, because Tamil Nadu was one of the premier, primary states who had privatized the higher education. We produce roughly 1 million graduates every year who join the workforce. In addition to that, the state is also excelling in, renewable energy. We are, I think, the 9th in the entire world globally. The power situation is also very, very good, because we have roughly about, for the next decade, we are power surplus in spite of the growing demand of electricity due to urbanization and industrialization. The state is also becoming very well known for its IT infrastructure. It has been known as a SaaS capital. It has the recent national rankings actually had about 18 of the institutions in the top 100 were from Tamil Nadu, the highest again across in the entire country. US is a major source of FDI. We have about 300 US companies. which are about 375 projects of about $11 billion of investment in Tamil Nadu. The major sectors we have received investments are automotive, building materials, chemicals, and many companies who are, we have about 74 top Fortune 500 companies. Many companies like TPI Composites, Dell, Caterpillar, Amazon, IBM, Lincoln Electric, Flex, GE, HP. We can name many of them. And Sundaram Clayton, of course, is a reverse pearl there, which we are very proud of. The Honorable Chief Minister visited, United States in 2019, and we have actually signed a lot of MOUs there. Many of those projects actually fructified also. We are actually focusing currently on the automobile sector as a very important sector to grow, continue our leadership. Tamil Nadu is called Detroit of Asia. We produce the largest tires here. We have strong forward and backward linkages with the next sector, which is the electronics and hardware sector. We are number 2 in the entire country again. And it is becoming the mobile manufacturing hub for the entire world. Salcom, Foxconn, Samsung, Dell, name a few. We are having actually plans from several other mobile players who are expected to come here. Life sciences sector is another area where we can, expect and encourage investment from South Carolina. We export a lot of chemicals. The government of India has announced a good PLI production linked incentive scheme, which companies can utilize to, bring investments, and we will be there to help them. Aerospace and defense, again, a very vibrant sector where, companies can invest. Tamil Nadu is the only brownfield aerospace defense corridor in the country, and we have a lot of existing companies here who are actually manufacturing in the States. Our policies have been very, very dynamic with, the electric vehicle policy, which has been very, very welcome, aerospace and defense policy, electronic hardware and manufacturing policy, and an industrial policy, which is about to be released very, very shortly. The state is also very well known for its ease of doing business. The guidance is actually, we had a slogan, we said we are open 24/7. And actually, if you Google us, Google actually believes we are open 24/7, like a restaurant, it says open 24/7. So we've been able to convince at least Google that we are 24/7 open. But jokes apart, we try to be as responsive as possible to our investors, make sure that they get the best handholding support from guidance. And we assure all the investors here that they will receive the highest level of support so that they can focus on their operations. We have a very strong single window portal. We only have about 36 services now. We are increasing and adding another 200 services, by which we aim to actually create a completely faceless, paperless, and a transparent approval system. These are just few of the initiatives and kind of a high-level view of Tamil Nadu. I hope I'll be able to evoke some interest in the investors who have joined here today, and we stand 24/7 available to answer your queries. Thanks a lot, Shuchita, for giving us this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. The pleasure was ours. Dr. Mittal has certainly provided a wide perspective for our companies and ex-partners. May I request you to mute your account, please? Thank you. Just to avoid the echo. We loved hearing your views. So we look forward to supporting Tamil Nadu in its efforts to attract investment as well, and continuing to build linkages with South Carolina. And one such critical linkage that we see is Sundaram Clayton, whose president and CEO Vivek Joshi has joined us today to share his company's incredible experience and investment story in the state. With a recent $40 million update to their manufacturing plant in Dorchester County, Sundaram Clayton's collaboration with South Carolina Department of Commerce is really a spectacular example of what we can look to in preparing future investment plans. Vivek, would you like to come in and please share with us how Indian companies in South Carolina are more competitive and why it's a great place for business.
Thank you very much, Shuchita. Honorable Councillor Dr. Swati Kulkarni, Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Jennifer, Karen, Philip, Tarun, Fort Graham, and thank you, Honorable Governor Henry McMaster, for honoring us by recognizing his visit to our plant. I would like to share a small presentation, just a few slides, which will give perspective of the help that we have received from the state of South Carolina. I hope you can see my slides. Okay. All right. So let me begin by again thanking the state of South Carolina for their excellent support during the launch phase of Sundaram-Clayton facility in USA. As you all can imagine, there are many choices, and we went around, the company went around once we decided to have a business in USA, and we started looking for a second home for us. So out of many options, what we have observed during the launch, South Carolina immediately offered us a dedicated project manager. Through the site selection, site finalization, discussing the incentives and other network of support systems, all the clearances were one window. We found them pro-business, we found them welcoming, we found support across the state and county wherever we went, and at all the levels during the full engagement. There were difficulties, obviously, through this big project. There were options for land acquisition. The county, in fact, went ahead and entered into agreements with prospective sellers and provided guarantee on behalf of Sundaram-Clayton even before we could go in agreement with them. So such was a help given by the state. Of course, the incentive package you can discuss with them is attractive and expedited permits and approvals. Not only that, once we decided to come, we acquired the land, the things didn't end there. They ensured that proper infrastructure for the roads, water, sewer were offered that will necessitate the plant's construction and fully functional operation. And they were always ready for any answers or questions that we had. Not once the plant was opened, inaugurated, there were many difficulties. In fact, during the COVID pandemic, we took a call that for a short period, we would like to take a break, and then we come back again. And plant was supported fully by the state and local county teams. They fully understand the situation, helped through it, worked with us. They gave us good and practical advice and tips for the employees, utility companies, local community, county council, state economic development authorities, and all. So we are still continuing the engagement. If we have a trouble, we give a call, hey Tony, hey John, what's the solution to do this? And we get all the answers with them. With that said, in the phase one, we committed $104 million. We have already spent more than $90 million in the plant. It's a 228,000 square foot, fully integrated casting and machining plant. Like Dr. Neeraj said, it's a reverse engineered kind of. We are coming in US. Usually this type of companies supply from India into US. It's a 50+ acre facility in Ridgeville, South Carolina. Phase one capacity is 10,000 metric ton. Very attractive geographic presence, well timed with state-of-the-art technology and efficient supply chain network. We have good and efficient engagement from get-going with the state and county, and we are fully permitted. All the permissions were handed over to us after proper documentation quickly, and market recovery and returning customers, we are working on it. Here is the beautiful facility. a nice lake, aerial view, the parking lot, and you can see the facility and the land. So we are ready for future expansions as we go through the development phase. Here is the front end picture. So we installed melting furnaces, high pressure die casting machines where we got them from Switzerland, we got some of them from US, we got the machining centers from Germany, we got machining integration from India, we got core shooters from USA, heat treatment from US, washing machines from Canada, absolutely no problem getting all the material all over the world. And these are some of the machineries that are installed and are fully functional in the plant. The plant looks beautiful. We preferred the TVS way, a greenfield facility. And as Dr. Kulkarni mentioned, I will end my presentation here on this picture. We were very honored to receive Honorable His Excellency Ambassador of USA to our facility, and Dr. Kulkarni made it happen. And same way, Governor McMaster was there. So a lot of dignitaries visit us, and they are very impressed with the way the facility was inaugurated, the facility was kept and made operational. I really take this opportunity to thank the government of South Carolina and colleagues at state and counties to help us go through this facility. Thank you very much again.
Vivek, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was a great PowerPoint and some impressive aerial shots that you shared.
Thanks.
Vivek, would you mind anything?
I just would like to just add one sentence. The participants here and any officials, you are welcome to visit us. We will be glad to show you around and show the facility and how we went through the process. Thanks again.
Thank you, Vivek. We will take you up on that, and we'll all take a road trip to South Carolina. I can't wait for a program or designing something that we can make happen with this. We wish you all the success with your ventures. Your success is our success. Thank you for your investments, and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing to further this relationship. So as we're now entering the panel discussion session of the program, let me just make a note and say to all of our participants, if you have questions through this session, please feel free to use the chat box on the right side of the screen and type in any queries and questions for the Consul General or for the South Carolina Department of Commerce or for our upcoming speakers in this next section. And with that, let me invite Tarun Gupta, the Managing Director for the South Carolina Department of Commerce based in India, to lead this interactive discussion for our members with key officials from the South Carolina government. Thank you, Tarun, for your initiative, for your leadership and your friendship in pulling this off. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Suchita. A very good evening to all our participants, a late good evening to all our participants from India, bright and early Monday morning for our participants from the United States. Let me first start by thanking our Consul General, Dr. Swati Kulkarni, whom I had the pleasure of meeting last year. And Dr. Kulkarni, you mentioned some very good points, and I'll just elaborate very quickly on that. We are continuing with our visits to India every year. We don't want to break that record. And we are doing a Digital India Roadshow in the first week of December. Then second, we are also engaging with a lot of other industry associations. In the last few months, we have had joint events with the Tirupur Exporters Association, with All India Plastic Manufacturers Association, with the Gujarat Chemical Associations. So we continue to engage with the Indian industry stakeholders. And finally, we are pleased to announce that there's another addition to your list of Indian companies in South Carolina. We have a company, Access Kids, who's set up in South Carolina Aerospace. So we hope to work on adding to that list. With that, I would also like to thank Dr. Neeraj Mittal. Neeraj, Tamil Nadu has a special place in our hearts. Since the office opened in India, every year, the only state which we have visited, and I have Ford nodding because it's his favorite state, every year we have ensured that we visit the state of Tamil Nadu. So yes, there is a bias there. I would like to thank Jennifer for the confidence in the India team. And finally, Vivek, for a brilliant overview, Vivek, but you've got me worried now. With your presentation, I'm worried whether an India office is really required. And I have concerns on my job. You've done a brilliant overview. Let's hope I'm able to retain my job after a brilliant speech. So with that, we start this investor roundtable. And I think the key aim in this over the next 25, 30 minutes is to answer just one simple question. Can South Carolina be the preferred business partner for India? And in particularly with Tamil Nadu? And why South Carolina is just right for business? I think all these aspects, whether it's related to cost, manufacturing costs, labor, port connectivity, incentives, all these have to come together for an Indian business to take that decision to establish their first presence quite often in the United States, in South Carolina. And we at India office are available to make this journey worthwhile and profitable. So I'll be moderating the next three speakers as we come on, and please feel free to shoot your questions in the panel, in the Q&A box. With that, I invite our first speaker, Phil Morgan, Senior Project Manager, South Carolina Department of Commerce, for his opening presentation. Over to you, Phil.
Thank you so much, Tarun, and thank you everyone for being here. It is an honor to be able to speak to you today and provide a little bit of an introduction to South Carolina. That's my goal, and hopefully give you an idea of what we at the Department of Commerce can do to help Indian industry that is looking to come into the U.S. and particularly South Carolina, but also just give you an idea of what the state brings to the table and why we are such a great place to do business. First of all, just to let you know where we are in the southeastern part of the United States, about halfway between New York and Miami, a state of about a little over 5 million people. That's about mid-range in terms of the U.S. states, but certainly on the populous East Coast, that has its advantages, as we can see in the next slide. It's true. Yes. So within 1,000 miles, you get roughly 66% or 2/3 of the entire population of the U.S. So from a logistics standpoint and distribution, we are extremely well situated in South Carolina to be able to reach your customers or your suppliers or whoever you might need within the United States with that population on the East Coast. We'll jump to the next one. We love to show this. There's been a lot of conversation about international investment within the state of South Carolina and just how many different international companies call South Carolina home for their U.S. presence. South Carolina has long been a stronghold in international investment. I think Jennifer mentioned before, the people here, they know how to work with different cultures. And we accept them into our home because of the partnerships we can form and really just the synergies that we can have in the state of South Carolina. So certainly we would be a welcoming environment and home for any other Indian companies that might want to come into the state as well. And I think we're up to 1,200 operations of those international firms, if I heard correctly earlier. We're just growing so quickly to keep up with it. We could go to the next one and focus a little bit more specifically on India here, and you can see some of the Indian companies, certainly Sundar and Clayton down in our Charleston area, highlighted here today. We're thrilled to have them here in South Carolina representing India and showing the success and the partnerships that the state here has with our companies that come in. We'd love to add to this list, and certainly and anyone is welcome to come visit us and see why South Carolina would be a great fit for them as well. And go to the next slide there. So some of the reasons that we are so well situated for international business, the cost of living here is 10% less than the national average. That makes every dollar that you pay your workforce goes further here in South Carolina than it does in the rest of the U.S. The construction costs to build your facility and get started, they're lower here than they are in most of the rest of the U.S., as well as some of your operating costs, particularly electricity and your utility costs, are going to run cheaper here in South Carolina, offering a number of advantages to your ongoing operation here in the state of South Carolina. Next. Again, back to the workforce, we've got the third lowest wage rate in the Southeast. That is an advantage in your operating costs. The hourly rate for production workers being $17.42 an hour, and certainly just a robust and plentiful workforce for you to tap into to be able to run your business here in the state and be successful. One of our points of pride here, unionization in South Carolina is the lowest in the United States consistently. As far as unions and their presence, it can really be a detriment and a hurdle for companies dealing with unions. Our people here in South Carolina, they want to represent themselves. And so our workforce likes to be ununionized, and consistently they put forth that and vote down any efforts to unionize within the state. And we like to see that. We like people being independent and representing themselves, and the businesses that come here certainly appreciate it as well. And jump to the next slide. Tarun and others have mentioned our connection worldwide. A lot of that comes from our port, and just the focus on being able to develop that port. They've consistently improved it, whether it be deepening or making sure that they're the most efficient port in the United States. There's certainly a large number of TEUs that come through the Port of Charleston every day, and that's another asset for companies that come in, particularly international companies that need to import their raw materials or export finished goods around the world. We have that connectivity, as well as a number of nearby international airports that you can access as well to get to and from where you need to be worldwide. Specifically, we take great pride in South Carolina in our automotive sector. 30 years ago, we didn't build cars in South Carolina, and now BMW has its largest plant worldwide in the upstate in South Carolina. Among other companies that have located, certainly Volvo, recent addition to the automotive team, and Mercedes-Benz building their Sprinter vans down in the Charleston area. And of course, I also want to mention just how far we've come in terms of tires here in South Carolina. We didn't really build tires here in South Carolina 30 years ago either, and now as a state, we are the #1 exporter within the United States of tires. So the automotive package as a whole is extraordinarily strong here in South Carolina, and we welcome any suppliers, no matter what tier, to join us and be part of that story, one that we love to be able to tell. And I think I've got another slide on just briefly on automotive next. Right, I jumped forward a little bit in my tires. But we've got 13 active tire plants here in the state, and #1 in the country to export those tires. Another area related focus on, we've got a number of advanced materials companies located here, approximately 800 firms here in South Carolina. Again, something we would love to see more of and add more. That economic impact of almost $22 billion in 2017. is maybe recognize some of these, certainly some of these names that you see, Torre and Cytec. We've got Milliken here, a local company here based in South Carolina, and we want to see that list grow even further. Next slide. And certainly, what we want to do as the South Carolina Department of Commerce and the recruitment arm of the state, we found the most successful way for us to do our jobs is to be a partner with companies that come in. And certainly, one way to do that is to assist with incentives. We're not shy about talking incentives, and certainly everyone is curious and wants to ask. We've got a number of incentives in place that can help, both statutory and discretionary, that can assist in your move to South Carolina and be able to continue. I'll go further in that once you're here, we want to continue that partnership, and we have a number of resources to employ even once you're here in South Carolina. We're ready to go back to the table. Once you're here, if you're expanding, we have existing industry teams that are second to none that can assist you in your ongoing presence here and ongoing business in South Carolina. And I believe that's my last slide. So thank you again for letting me speak. And certainly any questions as Tarun moderates this and going further. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Phil, but I won't let you leave without extracting a promise from you. I would love to see you in India and try your hands on driving in Indian roads. That will be a true test. So that's a commitment we take. But on a serious note, I would just like to add also a point you made about the ports. I have a very interesting image of visiting Charleston port, wherein the lorry, the time it took from entering the port to identifying the container and picking up the container and moving out is 21 minutes. For me, that sheer efficiency speaks a lot. And with that, I invite our next speaker, Ms. Karen Davidson from Charleston Regional Development Alliance. And Karen, I had the opportunity when the world was normal last year to experience my first American baseball at Charleston. And it was a truly memorable experience, and I hope I can use my cricketing skills in baseball next time when I'm in Charleston. Over to you, Karen.
Hey, Tarun. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Davidson. I'm Global Business Development Manager with Charleston Regional Development Alliance, or CRDA. We're an economic development group that promotes a region of South Carolina that's located on the coast and near the port, as Tarun mentioned. So CRDA really exists to help companies that are looking to open or expand operations within the region and really to make this as seamless as possible for the company. And our services are at no cost to the company. We really do a lot of different activities, and it's based on what the company's needs are. So that can be anything from help identifying real estate. We can connect companies with talent outlets and workforce training programs. We can also introduce companies to reputable service providers such as legal, architects, engineers. And also we have a very strong data and research team to help prove your case of why Charleston is a good place for you to be. So I just want to leave you guys with 3 things to think about when you think of Charleston and why it's a great place to do business. The first one is that the economy is strong. Charleston's got a strong economy and we focus on 5 thriving industry sectors: automotive, aerospace, life sciences, and information technology, and logistics. The region is also known as a tourist destination for its beautiful beaches, delicious food, and rich history. Charleston's home to the most productive port in North America, and we have several brands that you might be familiar with, such as Sunderland Clayton, Google, Volvo, Mercedes, Benz Vans, and Boeing. And Boeing recently announced that they will be consolidating all of their 787 production in our Charleston facility. So we're excited about that news. So the second point is that Charleston's growing and that it attracts talent. Charleston is a mid-sized metro, so our population is right under 1 million at about 800,000 people. We've got about 30 people that move to the region daily. This demographic is a young demographic with 50% falling between the ages of 18 and 54. And the region's population has been on a steady incline for the past 20 years, and we expect that to continue. And then we also feel like we might be on as we enter or exit COVID, Charleston's in a great position to become stronger than ever. A lot of cities are looking to exit out of largely densely populated areas, and Charleston's offering of not too big, not too small might be pretty appealing. And we've seen that in some of the data recently, as a lot of people migrating to Charleston come from New York and DC. And so this brings me to my last point, is that Charleston's also globally connected. About 10% of in-migration into Charleston is international. As Philip mentioned, South Carolina is #1 for U.S. foreign direct investment in the United States, and we really like doing business with international companies and open our arms to help as much as we can. Charleston specifically is home to close to 200 foreign-owned firms, which represent about 30 countries. In 2019, foreign-owned companies announced 538 jobs and $108 million in new investment in the Charleston region. So next time you think about Charleston, think about our diverse economy, our growing population, and our global connection. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to you, Tarun.
Thanks, Karen. Before I leave you, Karen, in India, we are big fans of real estate. I heard that word in your comment. Would you like to just give us anything, how easy, difficult it is for a new company? Are there any industrial parks in the region? And so if somebody is looking to buy land or even a ready site, is that something, an option on the table?
Absolutely. So a lot of our industry for real estate has really grown near the Volvo area along that I-26 corridor. And we've got a lot of distribution facilities popping up. And we've also been working with some companies to talk more about how to make more flexible building space, specifically that could be useful for life sciences companies. So we're working on that, getting more larger distribution facilities that are more flexible, that can really be open for a variety of different companies.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. With that, I move on to our next speaker, who's, as I may call it, an old India hand, a person who has traveled extensively in India, Mr. Ford Graham from the law firm K&L Gates. And Ford, I'm going to let out a secret, and I hope you don't kill me for that. Ford is an avid runner, and he's one of the very few people I have seen who lands in Chennai and could be seen running around Chennai streets, so he knows his way around. And so with that, Ford, over to you. And I know Tamil Nadu, Chennai has a very, very special place. So over to you for your remarks. It's very rare to have a lawyer giving you free advice, so we'll have a lot of questions for you. Over to you, Ford. You're on mute. Sorry, Ford, I can't hear you. Suchita, are you able to hear Ford?
No, maybe it's the Bluetooth or some audio connection.
Now, can you hear me now?
Perfect. Perfect. Over to you, Ford.
Okay. Well, I can't hear you, but I'll keep talking. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. We appreciate everybody spending their evenings with us. I've had the opportunity to be in Tamil Nadu, I think it's 8 times when I worked for the state of South Carolina. And then when I started with K&L Gates, I've also had the opportunity to be back in country. In fact, there's a cricket bat behind me. I don't know if you can see it. It's always there. It's not just today. And that's one I picked up during one of the missions that Governor Nikki Haley took with our team years ago. But I've foregoing the presentation for time's sake, and I want to be able to answer some questions that you may have. But obviously, South Carolina is a great place to do business. We have an office here, and we have 21 international offices and 25 other offices in the U.S. So we are well accustomed to helping international companies as they make the transition to the U.S., not just with incentives but also with corporate formation, with employment issues they may have. Really, anything that touches the law, K&L Gates is able to provide support. And, you've probably heard about lawyers and lawsuits in the United States, and you definitely will need to have an experienced law firm and law team on the ground here. But even though you may have heard bad reputation about all the laws in the United States, know that many companies, international and especially Indian companies, have been very, very successful here. So with that, I will turn it back over to you and hopefully can fix my sound so that I can hear any questions that may arise.
Excellent. Thanks, Ford. While you sort out the technicalities on the sound, maybe Phil, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up, Phil. Ford, if you can hear me. Yeah, okay. So Ford, while we have you, and you touched upon the fear of litigation and being sued, any typical common things which companies tend to do in terms of whether it's contract and also the aspect of unions, if you want to just touch upon that?
Yeah, so obviously contracts are very, very important in the United States, and that's why contracts in the U.S. seem to be so long and so thick, because every single detail is negotiated. And that's just the way that Americans do business, and that's to avoid problems on the back end, because you've detailed out every single thing that could go wrong, in the hopes that if it does go wrong, that you've got a protocol with which you can move forward. Again, lots of companies, well, all companies use insurance as well. So you've got a pretty robust insurance policy such that if you do face legal issues, your insurance will help cover some of those costs. But again, having good advisors on the front end will help prevent problems on the back end. One of the things that I think that I have seen with international companies is that they don't hire a local employment expert soon enough. And I don't mean an attorney, but I mean an HR person, someone on the ground that understands the customs and the laws of interacting with employees. And that seems to be a challenge for some of our international companies coming in. So I think one of your most important hires will be someone who really understands employment law and employment hiring in the United States. And then finally, on the union question that you mentioned, again, we're what's called a right to work state, which means that even if there is a union at the facility, the workforce is not required to be a member of that union. And that's a long history of that. And so we have a long history of not having a big unionization rate and unions in the state. So it's just something, as Philip mentioned, that South Carolina is known for, having very low union activity. Does that answer your questions there?
Yeah. Thanks, Ford. But again, as I said, I'll use your time to the hilt. One more question is, are there any, in terms of restrictions on foreign ownership? We spoke about sectors like automotive, any restrictions? And second, in terms of company formations, what are the typical company formations you see on behalf of foreign companies?
Yeah, so in terms of restrictions, really the only restriction has to do with how close an international company is to military installations in the United States. So there is a process whereby if you happen to be an international company that's managed internationally, then there are restrictions about how close you can be to the military base. And there are some industries in the United States that are also considered defense-related or security-related that require extra hoops to get through. But other than that, if you're a company setting up from anywhere in the world, and you set up an operation here, you're treated just as every other American company. So it's fairly easy to get started in terms of doing business. Most companies tend to form their actual corporate structure in Delaware, and that has to do with a long history of business-friendly laws in Delaware and a court system that really understands businesses. And so that's where most companies start. They usually do an LLC or some sort of C Corp to get started. And then they get what's called basically permission to do business in the individual states, which is very easy to do once you have your corporate entity formed. You can also form a corporate entity in the state that you're actually doing business that's underneath the parent in the Delaware company, Delaware Corporation. But again, a law firm can help you. A law firm that understands international business and international companies can really help you get these things done quickly and done correctly.
Thanks, Ford. These were some of the questions we typically get asked by Indian investors. And based on our previous interactions, I just have two more questions, Suchita, before I pass on to you for closing remarks. Those are for Phil Ford, so I would leave you now. Phil, you can hear me, Phil. These are two questions. One is, Phil, how does the state's environmental permitting process is under regulations compared to the rest of the United States? And second is, any indication on the industrial parks, which may be 30 minutes, 45 minutes away from the port? Ballpark, what kind of prices can we see for land there?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And I'll start with your first question, obviously. So South Carolina has a reputation for environmental permitting being easier here than most states that we compete with. Part of that is our relationship, the Department of Commerce, that we have with our environmental permitting agency. We have a very specific liaison with that agency that works directly with us so they can understand the needs of the businesses that we are working with and might be locating or expanding in South Carolina, so that we can move as quickly as possible for that permitting. Now, of course, there are time constraints on any permitting, and they have to abide by their set of rules, but they understand with the permitting department that our goal as a state and their partnership with us and our partnership with companies coming in is to make the state as accessible and move as quickly as possible to get businesses up and running. Now, as far as your second question, what's funny is Karen may actually be more knowledgeable about this than I am. If we're talking about parks that are closer to the port, you said within 30 minutes of the Charleston port. Certainly, there are a number of available parks that the area is growing. Private investors are investing in developing those parks and putting up speculative buildings so that it makes it easier for businesses to come in and go ahead and start and hit the ground running. Offhand, I don't have the pricing on that. It's certainly you're paying for a little bit more of an advantage being closer to the port, and depending on the size of the particular park and the work they've put into it. But that infrastructure is in place. It exists. And makes it easier for companies that are coming in to be able to build and start their business in the greater Charleston area.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil. And I'm aware, in terms of just summarizing what you said earlier, the cost of power in South Carolina is cheaper, about 6 cents. Then we've seen land prices ranging from, as you said, distance from the port, from $20,000 as low as $20,000 an acre, going up to $100,000 an acre, no foreign restrictions, efficient port, less of unions, and a manufacturing state. I think that's the core message. With that, Suchita, I would like to wrap up the investor panel and pass over to you, thanking CII once again for this opportunity, for all the panelists, for all the speakers. A big thank you from the South Carolina Department of Commerce India office. We remain the first port of call for any queries related to investment opportunities. And with that, over to you, Suchita.
Tarun, thank you so much. All that's left for me to do is really thank all of our amazing speakers today, especially Ms. Fletcher, Dr. Kulkarni, Mr. Mittal, and Mr. Joshi, and all of the speakers in the investor panel as well. I know that, a lot of our companies are based sort of in the technology space, in the manufacturing and pharmaceutical space, some professional services companies. So this was kind of a really well-rounded and overarching discussion that was really helpful for them. And we are happy to do some follow-ups for you and share, in fact, your contact information so our companies, know you as a first port of call and are able to connect with you as and when they have queries and are considering investment. So for the last 25 years, CII through its India Business Forum has served as a platform for networking and knowledge sharing and policy advocacy for Indian companies in the U.S. And we would follow up on this conversation, obviously, and continue to build partnerships to facilitate these conversations with the state. So we'll certainly be in touch. We went a little bit over time today, but this could have gone on even longer, and hopefully this is just the beginning of the conversation. So we'll continue on from here. A huge thanks to you, Tarun, and to Saurabh Khanna for your initiative and your team's help in taking this forward. This would not have been possible without your amazing support. Thank you to the South Carolina team. It's amazing to see this kind of leadership and engagement with India. And I also want to thank my CII teams, both in the US and in India, Suzanne and Akanksha and Achyut, for their initiative and support. And finally, let me say that, as and when travel resumes, we look forward to bringing Indian delegations to South Carolina, as well as hosting the governor and the commerce team, South Carolina in India once again. And until then, thank you so very much. Stay tuned virtually until then, until we can make that happen. So thank you, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.